E6 Serval versus E0 Jingyuan. What exactly separates them and what makes them similar as well? In this video, we're going to find out putting both of them side by side to a test. Now, first things first, let's look at their differences. Of course, the main thing that we want to know is that their attack stat is very different as well as their speed stat. Serval, being a 4-star character, has much weaker scaling, 22% weaker compared to Jingyuan over here, as we can see, at exactly the same level of level 70, each of them unascended. So in terms of speed, Jingyuan is 99, which is slightly slower than the 104 that Serval has. Both of them are lightning erudition characters, which is why we are able to do this kind of content to see how they fulfill, because they do fulfill like similar roles in terms of being an AoE damage dealer of the lightning element. Of course, Jingyuan, one thing to note is he's more of a hypercarry style, which benefits a lot from a lot of investment, whereas Serval is a little bit more independent, where she can be ran with a lot of hypercarry kind of traits like Jingyuan, as she has very good attack stats for a 4-star character, or she could even run solo in terms of handling her own self as the only lightning character in the team as well, because of a good ability to proc shock and very strong amounts of AoE damage that she provides when enemies are also shocked. Now, the first thing that you guys might be asking is, what exactly does Eidolon's does for Serval that bridge the gap between her and an E0 Jingyuan? So there are two Eidolons that make a difference. The first one is one Echo Chamber, E1. Basically, it just increases her basic attack by 60% towards the random targets that are adjacent. And the other one is E6, this song rocks to heaven. She deals 30% more damage to shock targets, and targets generally are shocked quite often, especially with her E4, which has a 100% base chance to apply shock to enemies that are not shocked. And of course, E2 doesn't add directly to the damage, but she just has a regenerative ability, giving her a bit more refund to her already actually very low cost ultimate ability. If you see here, it's at 100, whereas if we see Jingyuan's one here, it's a little bit higher at 130 energy cost. So meaning that in totality, Serval will be using her burst a lot more, especially with her Eidolons. Jingyuan maybe not as much, even though we consider, for example, he has a Sun Trace here, start of battle gaining a bit of energy as well. And that is something to consider, because Serval also has some of that. She has this string vibration that gives her the exact same thing, not to mention the additional that she has in her Eidolons. So gear that we will be using for today, we are going to be using both of them, the Seriousness of Breakfast. Of course, if we compare with Jingyuan's signature light cone before dawn, it's going to be much more favorable to him. So I'm just going to put in a free-to-play one, a very generic, increases the wearer's damage by 24% for both of them. It will swing slightly in favor if you're using his own personal light cone towards his favor, because Serval doesn't have follow-up attacks as well. So that's like something to know. This testing, I just want to use like a free-to-play alternative to reach out to more people out there as well. In terms of recommended gear that we will be using, I'm just gonna put it in real quick. So let's just see what we have. We are using, in terms of main stats, this is absolutely wrong. So we have one prepared already, a crit rate main stat here, and we are using attack boot. Nah, I don't like attack boot. Let's go with speed here. Why am I using speed instead of attack? Because attack percentage would scale better with Jingyuan, who has a 20% higher base attack already from his 5-star stat scaling. So going attack percentage will actually give more advantage to Jingyuan. So here we are just going for speed, which is more or less a neutral, since both of them have around the approximately same speed, like 5% difference, which is much more manageable. And in terms of Planisphere, we are using a lightning damage bonus, and Lilling Rope here, of course, we have no choice, we're going to use attack percentage. We could use energy restoration, but I think we will go attack so that we can see nicer numbers compared to energy restoration as well. And for today, we are going to be using Memory Stage 5, which just gives lightning damage bonus to all allies by 50%, and we'll just have a very quick run to see who actually can clear it faster as well. So over here we see that Lightning Lord actually has a huge impact on how both of them compare out each other. Jingyuan was a whole turn ahead of Serval, and it's thanks to that final hit from Lightning Lord that actually pushed him just beyond the 19 turn mark. So I think that was the main differential factor, but other than that, by and large, in terms of the speed of clearing, Serval is actually pretty fast on her own self, and she doesn't really have that wind-up time that requires stacking of charges. But as we can see here, Jingyuan has a slight advantage when it comes to squishier mobs, weaker mobs that he can easily clean up with Lightning Lord. Does push him ahead because of that so-called additional member that we have in solo. But solo is not very effective. Let's look at the Hypercarry team comp for Jingyuan and Serval, and we'll see how that goes next.
I'm with you.
Cool.
I commend.
Can't stop. Oh, look me. Keep up. You can fight it. Fight it. Rock with it.
Show no mercy.
Fight it. Oh, stars. Give these trailblazers your blessing. Give these trailblazers your blessing. Yeah, let's rock. Huh? Who will it be? You can fight it. Or rock with it.
Never falter. A will forged in ice. Never falter. Show no mercy.
Oh, stars. Give these trailblazers your blessing. You can fight it. Or rock with it.
On my command. Here.
Who will it be?
Ends here.
Let's rock. Oh, stars. Give these trailblazers your blessing. Fight it, fly.
Ends here. A will forged in ice. Never falter.
Yeah. Who will it be? Yeah. Fight it, fly.
Conflict is pitiless.
You can fight it or rock with it. Huh? Oh, stars, give these trailblazers your blessing. Let's rock.
So what's my verdict in terms of overall what we see? One thing I want to point out before we go into any details I didn't mention is the exact trace level that they have and the level ups that they have. So for Jingyuan here, he actually has a 5667 with of course these two added and these three added. Serval, if I'm going to just switch real quick, you can see that I leveled this both up as well. This is a defensive effect rest. This is also effect hit rate, so it doesn't add directly to her damage. So just to compare, this is not unlocked, this is not unlocked, and this is also unlocked. So while he has 5667, Serval has 5887. This 8 really comes because it's +2 because of the Eidolons. So that Eidolon bonuses is factored in here. The only thing is Serval is slightly disadvantaged because even though this is 7, she's actually a 5+2. Jingyuan on the other hand here with his skill ability, he's a 7 flat out, straight flat out, so it doesn't factor in the Eidolon for the skill damage as well. So that is like the only inefficiency in terms of this demonstration for what we see. Basic attack, of course, this +1 is also not factored in for Serval as they are both the same level. But that aside, what do I think in terms of the comparison? So overall, if I were to compare both of them, I would say Jingyuan edges out slightly, but in terms of the number of turns we saw left, it's like 28. And as we can see, for example, if you look at Esta's buff, it could be a bit more random in terms of the RNG as well, in terms of how many characters she hits and the stacks that she get. So I'm not saying it's a perfect test, there is some discrepancy here and there, but by and large, you can see that using auto battle as a decision factor as well, we can see both of them come pretty close, especially in mid-level content, not the end game like Memory of Chaos kind of difficulty where you get to actually manage them. But if you are just auto battling mid-level content, they seem to come pretty close. And out of both of them, Serval is definitely much better if you want more diversity in terms of your team comps. She can be played into DOT comps as well because she has a good amounts of shock, as we saw, which wasn't added up because there's no like DOT buffs in the Memory of Chaos, we are not playing with Kafka or Sampo, for example. So those are some things that we haven't factored in as well. It does add a bit more versatility to her playstyle, whereas Jingyuan really has more or less one playstyle, Hypercarry, a lot of damage, doesn't play outside of that in terms of DOT and stuff at Eidolon 0 as well. He scales well with E1 all the way to E6, as we have in a video where we done on him in terms of our build guide video. And if you do like this kind of content, let me know in the comments below. I can consider doing it for other characters also in the game. For example, if you guys are interested, maybe you want to know how they compare with certain 4-star characters as well. Let me know. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video.